There's this unwitnessed scene by the audience in between where we see Diomed and Cressida first interact, and then when Cressida meets the rest of the Grecian army, where Diomed is taking Cressida to the Grecian army. And I think they get to talking a little bit, and I think about midway through the conversation, Diomed is like, oh, I think this is love. He's like, I think this is something I've never felt before, and I think it's love. And so it's not like an immediate, Romeo and Juliet kind of, I see you and then I know you're the one for me. It's just sort of like I finally have an emotional connection with someone, and then he feels like he's able to let down his walls around her.
And Diomedes is like this bro who plays up this act at the end of 4-4 where he's like, well, your lady is just so pretty and wonderful and seductive, and oh my gosh. And then we kind of see Diomedes be flustered by Cressida in the following scenes, and it's really kind of cute. You don't see much of a transition from Cressida's last line in 4-4 to 5-2 all of a sudden, where you see this side of Diomedes and Cressida that you're like, wait, where did that come from? But I think that it's a very natural progression outside of the scenes of the play, and it's a really honest relationship between the two of them. Diomedes and Cressida have this aforementioned this promise that hasn't been talked about in the scene or at all in the show, and they just kind of keep hinting at the fact that they've been in a relationship and they've made a vow to each other. Finally, Cressida gives in and she's like, okay, I'll go get you the token that I promised you. And then she brings a gift that Troilus gave her before she left Troy. And it's kind of like the pivoting moment in the scene where it goes from lighthearted and snarky to kind of being like, oh, everything's happening all at once. Troilus obviously is freaking out that she gave Diomedes this token, and Cressida's suddenly freaking out that she gave Diomedes this token. Diomedes is patient with her the entire time, and paralleling the end of 4-4 when Troilus is repeatedly demanding, asking the same question and demanding an answer from Cressida. Diomedes is asking who the token was from.
I think that Cressida is sort of Diomedes' first love and first relationship where he feels okay being vulnerable in, because with every other character that he interacts with in the play, he's sort of just, I guess it could be putting on a front. He's just I'm the best all the time, and everyone else should believe it too. But then with Cressida, we actually see him doubting himself a little bit and, looking to other people for validation, which I assume he does. He just doesn't show it to anyone. He definitely has a inferiority, superiority complex sort of going on there. But yeah, with Cressida, he just gets to be a little bit more himself than I think he allows himself to be with other people. He's showing that he's nervous in some situations. He's he's speaking from the heart a little more than he was beforehand. I think he almost gets his back up a little bit, because he's I don't want to get hurt by this. This is the first time I've ever loved someone. So I want to make sure that Cressida feels the same intensity of feelings that I do. And so, when Cressida is saying that she's not going to give Diomed the sleeve, he's like, well, why not? I already had your heart before. Why won't you give me the sleeve? And also when Cressida won't tell him who the sleeve belonged to, he's hurt and he doesn't want to be hurt. So I think he's expressing that by being a little irritated and please just tell me whose it was.
Cressida doesn't answer, but Diomedes accepts that in the end and is like, well, this is this is between you and me now. And he kind of just is like, all right, when are we going to bed? And Cressida's like, I did not expect that it would end well. She's playing kind of the same cards that she played in other scenes where she's kind of like she's defending herself, she's protecting herself from being overly vulnerable with Diomedes now. And he doesn't force her to put her guard down all the way. Her final soliloquy is about how, Troilus is still, she's had feelings for Troilus, and there's a possibility that the feelings linger, but right now what's in front of her is what she's choosing. And it's, she's made this choice, and the least she can do is own up to the choice. And that's kind of like the end of her. I mean, that's the last part we see of her in the play. And it's just really interesting to see that she ends on that note. Because a lot of Shakespeare's heroines don't really get to have to talk about their own agency sometimes. Like, we speculate and we analyze these characters, but Cressida is given a speech that's like, well, this is my choice, it's my responsibility, I'm signing off from the show. and it's one of those things that makes it really hard to see where scholars of Shakespeare have garnered their opinions on Cressida.